Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Monday. Another week. Another week. How are we on Christmas? Today is December 5th, I think. I know it's Monday. You never have to remind me when it's Monday. It is. It is December 5th. Yes, please hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed on your way in. That's right, Comrie. That's right. How did everyone's teams do this weekend? I wasn't very happy with the Chiefs. Wasn't very happy with them at all. That's okay. It's okay. I don't hold grudges for too long. I don't hold grudges for too long. It is a little cold here this morning. It would be better if the sun would come out. I think this afternoon it's going to be up in the 60s. JTB is feeling my pain. On Friday, I shut down the show like a very, very rude person without thanking Misty for gifting all those memberships. Let's have a big round of applause for Misty. That was beyond generous. Thank you, Misty. And if you were gifted a membership, take full advantage. Full advantage. C Star is not my favorite person today. C Star said I finished my shopping. Teach me your ways, C Star. Teach me your ways. Just when I think I've got it just about licked, then I'm like, oh, well, we've got to eat on Christmas and I have no idea what I'm going to fix. And oh, stockings. And I don't know. It'll all come together. It does every year. Never had an unsuccessful Christmas, right? So, and Christmas is a tough time of year. Whether you love your family to pieces and can't get enough of them, and you and your friends are all just perfect, and coworkers are just cool as can be, whether everything is silky smooth or not, the holidays are always a chaotic, rough time. So then you imagine being the families of the students in Idaho that were murdered a few weeks ago. Imagine being the parents of Kaylee, Madison, Ethan, Xana. They are really speaking out. They're frustrated. Some people say that they just need to cool their jets. Quit talking. The reason the police aren't talking to you is because you're talking to the media. There's a lot going on. I wasn't really expecting all that this weekend. It was a crazy weekend. If you've been following the little Athena case, speaking of a rough holiday, Friday she's murdered. She was murdered. It was by a man that was making a delivery to their house, a contractor for FedEx. So we had a live for little Athena Saturday morning. I'm not sure if there's going to be another show for Athena anytime soon or not. It depends on what develops. But you guys tell me. Some people are like, you have to do another show. And some people are like, well, it was solved, and it was solved fast. I don't know if it was just all the stars aligned and they had all their heads in the right place and solved it so fast, or they know something that other departments don't know. I don't know, because they solved it fast, and may he rot. That's all I can say. I don't have really anything nice to say about that situation at all, because it crushed me. So I put some videos up over the weekend regarding the quadruple murder in Idaho. Xana's mom, Kara, spoke out. She had a few things to say. Now, she has a longer extended interview that we're going to do another day. Right after that, then it starts getting it posted where Steve, Kaylee's father, now he has spoke out before, but this was a little different tune. He said a lot. So for those of you that are caught up, what do you think? I had a lot of comments. They are saying, Kaylee's family in particular, they're saying they think that the police have cleared people too soon. I've never per se heard the word cleared, and don't think what they have said cannot be easily remedied. Only 3 weeks in, yesterday was 3 weeks, only 3 weeks in for them to say, we don't think they're involved. We don't think they're part of this. That can be remedied very easily. And they can say, well, at the time we didn't think, but we do now because there's more evidence. I've never heard the words cleared per se. Xana's mom, we're going to listen to a little bit of it, said she has questions about the two surviving roommates. She said, how did they not hear anything? Well, the interview kind of got not cut off, but it ended there. Those two surviving roommates, and this upsets a lot of people when you bring them up. I don't know why. I don't know why it does. But it goes without saying that they were there and that they were not harmed. Kaylee's dad mentioned that the unconscious person was, I guess, not being able to get either Kaylee or Madison to answer their phone. Now, let's put all of this in perspective. He's basically putting things together the same that we are, because he has clearly said he doesn't have the communication with law enforcement that he would like to have. That's common. That's very common in many cases. That the family of the victim, they just don't get to take a peek at the file. They don't get to take a peek at the file. So when he says some of these things, let's put it in perspective. He's not giving us a fact. He's giving us his take on it. And I am not in any way, shape, or form not respecting his opinion. I'm just saying what it is. Now, as far as Dylan and Bethany sounding the alarms because Kaylee and Madison didn't answer their phone and they're fast to text back, that doesn't make any sense to me. I just don't know why them not being fast on their phone would garner any sort of emergency. These two girls slept through a quadruple murder. I don't think that would really jar them. I just really don't. But we're going to talk about all these things. We're going to talk about all these things. In particular, I want to talk a little bit, and I need your help here. I'm not concerned about the locks on the outside of the house. The sliding glass door, those easily come off their tracks. Anyone can figure that out. The door that comes into the house, it's already been said, many people had the key code to get in. But it really got my attention over the weekend about the locks on the inside. It's been said over and over that Dylan and Bethany, that their door was locked, that their doors were locked. So if the killer did know they were down there, couldn't get to them because their doors were locked. I need to know more about these locks. And if you know, you know. When my son went to his first apartment, his first year of college, there were 3 that I know of. So it's shared living, sort of like this, only nobody knew each other. They were like virtual strangers. Shared kitchen, shared living room, couple bathrooms, but everybody had a lock on their, like, when you shut your door, you had a key that you had to lock it. The landlord made no bones about it. When you leave your room, get your key, lock the door, whether you're going to get another bag of Doritos, or you're going to take a shower, or you're going to class, or you're going to work. Well, that's how it was the first semester. Everybody had an individual key to get into their individual room. The spring semester, all those locks were taken out, and they actually had a lock. It almost looked like for a hotel room, only instead of the flimsy cards that I lose all the time, they had like a keypad. Don't lose your code because it's $20 if they have to come and reset it and let you in your room. So a couple of pictures that I've seen looks similar. Oksana said the locks may have had a punch code on them from previous photos. That's what I saw too. Jeannie said these doors have code locks. This changes a lot for me. If these aren't just regular bedroom door locks, then either the killer was let inside or the killer knows their codes. Because locks like that, when you shut the door, it's going to automatically lock. At least that's how it was at my son's apartment. When it shuts, it locks. So either somebody knew the code or they knew them. So the random psychopath that's on the loose would not have known the code. But if the random psychopath, I guess, looked trusting enough, then knock, 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 then they would have let him in. I don't know. These are the pictures that I have. And it was mentioned by Xana's mom. Okay, so the one on the left, that looks like it has a key. And the other one's just a regular doorknob. Xana's mom mentioned that Xana's dad went over and fixed her lock a week or so before. Now, I need to be specific about that. One, what is Xana's dad doing any maintenance work on the property? No, I'm not throwing any shade his way. I'm just curious. Was it her bedroom door lock to get in there, or was it the outside of the house? I've heard two different stories. And I can tell you this right now, the maintenance people around where I live, they are lazy. Okay? They are lazy. But you mention plumbing or locks, and they're all over it. So what is going on with this landlord in his maintenance team that one of the daddies is fixing a lock? Yes, that's what I heard too, Caddy. She wasn't sure what lock. On the sideline said it could even been her bathroom door lock. I'm just really curious as to why we didn't just call the landlord and say, get over there and fix this lock right now. The landlord's not going to do it, but I'm telling you, and this maintenance crew around here, they are worthless. You mention lock or you mention plumbing, they come running. They really do. But you don't mention lock or plumbing if that's really not what's going on. And your maintenance is paid for by the landlord. I'm not talking about changing a light bulb here. He could just be that type of dad. I'm going to do it myself. I don't know. Anyway, Jules says, I don't think it was the keypad lock. No, I don't think he could fix something like that. I am curious about the locks on the inside of the house, though, that get to the bedrooms. Big time curious. Just because I know how it was set up when my son was in college, and it was when the door shuts, the door locks. You better remember your code, because if I have to send one of my people over to reset it for you, it's $20. Sorry, I was reading something. Okay, Slim said the landlord, I think, lives in Colorado, so he would have maintenance people there. Either way, I don't know. I don't know. Somebody had to fix a lock, but I am curious about the locks on the inside of the house. Because if they're the type that I'm looking at, the pictures that are going around, then that's a different story as far as someone getting inside of the bedrooms. To me, anyway. All right. Kaylee's dad has said that the killer didn't have to go upstairs. I've got Jay Woody backstage. We got a big treat. What do you guys think that means? Because I had a lot of different comments. Some people say he didn't have to go upstairs because Ethan and Xana were the target. So why did he go upstairs? Again, he's just giving his opinion. He's not saying that the police told him any of that. I'm wondering if he didn't come in the sliding door or the ground door, bypass floor 2 altogether. There's no elevator. There's no bank chute. So somebody had to take the stairs. How do we know he didn't go to floor 3, do his damage, and as he's getting out, he came across Ethan and then Xana? He might have gone directly to floor 3, then ran into them on floor 2 when he or she left. I don't know. Have we thought about that? Just because they were found on floors 2 and 3 doesn't mean that's the order that they got killed. Just some food for thought. Let's bring up our friend Jay. He said he got caught up on this morning. See what he thinks. Jay, are you more confused or do you have some clarity?
Good morning. Well, just like always, the more information we get, the more questions we have,
Yep. Because the sliding door, there's a sliding door on the 3rd floor, but I don't think Spider-Man scaled the tree and got to that sliding door. Wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think so.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's not impossible or completely out of context, but yeah, it seems more plausible that wasn't the entry door.
So it would be the sliding door on the 2nd floor, the one that comes off the patio. Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if he just bypassed Xana's bedroom altogether, went upstairs, attack. As he's getting out, comes across Ethan, because it's been said, even though the coroner says they were killed in bed, later she says most were killed in bed. It comes out later that Ethan was found on the floor. The only 2 that we know for sure were in bed were Kaylee and Madison. Because we're getting words like most were in bed. Well, we're talking about 4 people. Most were in bed, and most, let me find it right here. Most of them had just 1 lethal stab wound.
And see, the thing about that way of looking at it leads you to the question, why would her dad say that he didn't have to go upstairs or go to the next floor, however he worded it,
Yeah,
if we're looking at it as, like you said, the 3rd floor being where he started and then coming down. That's basically in reverse of how her father's seeing it. So what information does he have?
According to him, not much. According to him, communication has been cut off.
Right. And I saw that interview, and, I just listening to that, you definitely feel for him, because he feels so powerless. And that's that's the worst feeling ever, especially when it comes to your kid, because, you weren't able to be there for when all this went down. Now you want to at least try to rectify that by getting her justice. And without the information he needs, it's a powerless feeling.
He summed it up perfectly. He said, I paid for my daughter's college education and she came back in a box. Now think about that.
Yeah, and it's very accurate, but it's also coming from an emotional point of view, but still accurate and totally appropriate.
Very accurate. I'll play the interview here in just a second. When I got to do comments first. I've probably already gone through them just with my big mouth, but when he says that the means don't match, and then it came out that Kaylee's wounds are worse, Where does that come from? Is this his opinion? Because he says, I paid for the funeral. That's my information. I don't think that he got to compare bodies or autopsies. So
Yeah, but
where's
here's
this
here's the
information?
thing. He knows how his daughter died, and he knows what the medical examiner said about the others being the death blow was, a chest wound that was instantaneous for the most part. If his daughter didn't have that chest wound, say, God forbid, but her throat was slit, then that would be fairly simple.
Because I've never heard specifics, which doesn't mean anything, about Ethan, Xana, Maddie, Kaylee. I've never heard a comparison from the coroner. All I've heard were most had a fatal stab wound, but he's saying hers is the worst. So you're saying, knowing that she said most had one wound, he has Kaylee's autopsy, so he knows Kaylee doesn't just have one wound. That's what you're saying.
Correct.
Liza, the coroner never said that Ethan was found on the floor. It was said one of the victims, understood to be 20-year-old Ethan, was discovered on the floor of the second level of the 3-story home. Police were seen collecting the contents of trash cans. Edged weapon, they believe, was used in the killings. Then it was let out later that he was on the floor. It could change tomorrow. I'm trust me. There's a lot of information.
Yeah, see, with him being found on the floor, that almost tells me that there was a struggle.
Mm-hmm. That's what I
Which
was
again
thinking too.
begs the question, why wasn't more noise heard to wake up the other roommates? But there's so many, so much we don't know that could beg the difference on that.
Mm-hmm. It's something else. Well, I'm going to go through comments real quick, and then we're going to start going through what came out over the weekend. And it's a lot. Buckle up. Are you buckled in?
I'm buckled in, and let me just say, because I wanted to comment when you mentioned Athena Strand, my heart is very heavy for her and her family right now. With that being so close to home in my area, it's so senseless, and she was such a beautiful little bright light in this world, and I hate that that bright light was turned off. And I hope that he gets the full Texas capital penalty for what he did. Um, being in the true crime community, usually in our little circles, is where most of the conversation is had and most of the news and updates are seen. But with this, again, being so close to my home, just seeing random friends on Facebook posting about it and talking about it and expressing their feelings as well, just kind of brings it to a different level than what I'm accustomed to.
I wondered how
Yeah.
you were handling that, it being your backyard, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I was prepared to drive out there on Saturday, but Saturday morning, drinking my coffee, everything, I started seeing everything. I'm like, well, it doesn't look like I'm making that trip after all.
Nope. That was awful.
I mean, not that I was, thinking I was going to fly in like Superman and save the day or anything, but just to, get a grasp on what the climate was like in the area, and just to see anything I could.
Mm.
But yeah, I
That
saw the
hit
news and just my heart dropped.
That hit hard, and I was so glad that the way that the sheriff, I know I'm off topic. I'll get back on it in a second, but the way the sheriff addressed everyone, the way he said, we don't take it lightly when you kill one of our children. This guy, he's done. He's done.
Oh yeah, for sure. What got me was when the sheriff was saying, I forget exactly how he worded it. We wanted to do everything we could for Athena. Right now, there's a Texas Ranger in front of her and a Texas Ranger behind her. Still gets me right out. I can't even say it
That
without bringing tears to my eyes.
yeah, I had the tears. I had the tears. I had the tears. I
And
had the butterflies. I had the chills. Everything.
and not to be too boastful about my home state, Texas, but that's the way we are here.
Hmm.
We typically will take up for one another, even if we don't know you, and that's why they call it Texas friendly. And but on the same note, that's why we have the capital punishment here is to not let these things go in vain.
Right behind you, buddy, because Oklahoma uses theirs. They're not afraid of it.
Oh yeah,
It's crazy. Yeah, that one definitely hit hard. Definitely, definitely. And I have another show I'm getting together. I was kind of on the fence about it because it is so new, but there's some other things that came out, so definitely needs to be addressed.
yeah,
Definitely needs to be addressed. All right, let's get to these comments, my
yeah.
friend. All right. If I showcase your after show comment, meaning a comment that you leave if you catch the replay, if you weren't in the live chat, send me an email and you will find out why. Trinity said, unfortunately, this is going to take a while. As much as I wish this was CSI, it is not. She sounds so distraught. Now she's talking about Kara, Xana's mother. She sounds so distraught. I'm a little worried. I hope someone is keeping an eye on her. I do too. It was very hard to listen to her because you want to hug her so bad. You just know she is in a lot of pain for a lot of different reasons. She said people in this kind of pain usually look for an escape. And that was one thing. A lot of people reached out, just condolences to Xana's mom because she has gotten a lot of flack. And I know why. I know why. She's hurting badly. And she asked a lot of great questions. Leah said his daughter didn't say she heard something or was in fear. Then what did she say? So that is a lot of confusion with the two interviews. That's the reason we're going to do them back to back today. Of course, we're going to stop and discuss. There's a lot left out, and I understand the police not saying a word about what they know, and I understand Kaylee's dad not saying too much because he knows that the police are not communicating with him right now, and he needs to advocate for his daughter, but he can't say too much in fear of the police not trusting him, really is what it comes down to. And this isn't the only case where family members get frustrated and they go to the media, and then when they do, the police are like, we can't share this with you. And with there being four sets of parents involved, four victims, they can't have them talking amongst each other either and playing the telephone game, if that makes any sense. But I am curious, if she wasn't in fear, she didn't call 911, what was relayed his way? I'm really, really curious. Rexy said, him, meaning Steve, saying he, meaning the killer, didn't have to go upstairs means he went up there because one of those girls were the target. So that's how Rexy took it. He didn't have to go upstairs. You didn't have to kill my daughter. You didn't have to kill my, Maddie, who I considered like a daughter. Is that what he meant? Or is it like how Adjusted Fate took it? Adjusted Fate 11 hours ago said, I don't believe he thinks the girls were the targets at all. To me, he's saying Etha and or Xana was after killing them. So the job was done, so to say. He got his target. He didn't need to go upstairs. I wonder if they weren't screaming for one of the roommates and he realized there's someone upstairs and went upstairs to make sure he didn't leave any witnesses behind. What do you think, Jay Woody?
Yeah, and I was actually going to touch on that. It's tough to try to determine, but I feel like if a specific person wasn't the target, then was it an item? Was it cash? Was it a robbery? Were they there to steal something?
But didn't steal anything because nothing was stolen and there's no sexual element.
So law enforcement has said that nothing is missing.
Nope.
What if law enforcement didn't know about a bag of, excuse me, a bag of money or something along those lines?
Don't know. There's always that. There's always what you don't know.
Right, because when I think about changing locks on doors, on bedroom doors, to me that implies two things. They're worried about something being stolen, or they're worried about just not trusting people in the house that they don't know.
Yep. Yep. Because something was going on for sure. That, I mean, these, okay, with the exception of Dylan and Bethany, at the time, everyone, Dylan and Bethany, I don't know if they knew them prior or anything like that. But these aren't just like random people in a house together. Kaylee and Madison, basically, they're like sisters. They grew up together. Ethan and Xana, which Ethan didn't live there, they're dating. So everybody, there's some close bonds as far as the victims go. But you have to guard your privacy because it's like, well, I don't know Dylan. I don't know Bethany. They just moved in here. We had that chick that signed the lease in October. I don't know her. So come fix my lock. I don't want my stuff taken.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So that could be it. Or he could just be that dad saying, no, I'm going to make sure all your locks are working. And she wasn't even sure what lock got fixed. I'm just wondering why the landlord wasn't contacted and said when maybe he was. And he was like, we'll be there on Monday. And dad was like, that's not quick enough. I'm not leaving her in there where she can't lock to take a shower. Not leaving her in there where her bedroom door doesn't lock. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. One of the girls being a target is is more obvious than an item. But you always have to look at every possible scenario for sure. And darn it, forgot where I was going with that.
Oh, you're good. I'm all over the place with this. The locks to get into the bedroom, I really want to know what kind of locks they are. Because if they're the type of locks that I'm seeing the pictures of, those type of doors are almost like hotel rooms.
Yes, well, I was going to mention that too. We also don't know that the doors were shut.
We don't. I would think Kaylee and Madison to lay down to go to sleep would shut their door though. And you know the couple wants privacy.
Yeah, I would think their door would be shut and or locked over Kaylee and Madison for sure.
And there's this from Seagate. If they knew the killer, locks don't matter. That person could very well know their key code. That person could very well knock, knock, knock. Hey, I just got here. What's going on? And that it's someone that they know. If it's just this random killer, then they're not going to know the key code, and there's going to be a problem if they open the door, which there was. We're missing a lot here.
I just have a hard time picturing being not necessarily a forced entry into the bedroom. I guess it still would be a forced entry if it was locked.
Yeah, there's no
there would be
into the house.
Not into the house, but into the bedrooms.
No forced entry.
So then the doors would have to be unlocked.
Unlocked, right? or somebody was let in.
So knock, knock. Hey, can I talk to you?
Yeah.
Come in. It goes down.
Yep. Blue Butters said if the families feel people were cleared too fast and they stand by the ex-boyfriend, then who are they saying was cleared too fast? Whose alibi are they asking for? Well, you read my mind, Blue Butters, because that's what I'm wondering too. Now, Xana's mom said she has questions for the surviving roommates, and her question was the question you're not ever supposed to answer, and that's how did they sleep through everything? If you look at the layout of the house, you almost look like two separate houses because one is an addition and it's added on. So you could see maybe that they wouldn't have been in the best line of hearing. You know what I'm saying? And if they have music on and they're just used to commotion all the time, you could see it when you look at the house, the line of the house. Okay, so she said that she had questions. The reporter wouldn't even address that. Kaylee's dad and the sister said, why won't they tell us an alibi? Whose alibi are they looking for? Whose alibi? And by the way, being asleep is not an alibi. Sleepy time is not an alibi. Who do you think they're asking for? Whose alibi?
By process of elimination, it's definitely the first floor roommates. If indeed they really do trust Jack, and they could not trust him and still say that. So it's so tangled.
Oh, hang on, Wist. Wist said the dad said she has an alibi. Who is she? I did not hear him say that. I did not hear him say that. I'm just curious as to whose alibi they want. Whose alibi do they want? Who do we have that's involved? I'll read it off. I will read it off real quick before I get to the clip. We have the two surviving roommates who the police say they don't believe are involved. We can't get that muddied with cleared. We have Jack, the food truck guy in the hoodie. He's the one that followed him. We have Joe Vidot, which he's not involved, but he's the one that gave the interview to the Daily Mail that said, hey, they're leaving you. And they got their ride share and went home, which turned out to be a sorority designated driver service. All right, so then we have Jack. We got a lot of the same names, my friend, which is Kaylee's ex-boyfriend. They said the person that they were calling before everything happened, they don't suspect them. Then there's a Jack that Ethan sent a Venmo to, or back and forth. Then we have goofy-ass Jeremy, who has given his DNA to anybody that shows up or wants to. So whose alibi do they want?
So was Kaylee's ex-boyfriend Jack not the same Jack that the Venmo was sent to by Ethan?
Nope, that's a different.
Or would you still know? It was a different one.
Yep.
Golly.
So, I mean, I'm hearing words like they, which could just be, just throwing it out there.
It's like Nate D, C, E, and B all over again.
I know. All of these damn names, Jack, and we don't know jack shit.
100%.
Jack, and my other brother Jack. Good Lord. That's crazy. It is. We said it at the same time.
Jeez. Yes, we did. I mean, out of my group of friends, 2 have the same name. My group of friends is fairly small, but still, I just it's so anomalous.
Yeah, all of these names, all of the same names. It's happened in too many cases recently. Like with Summer Wells, you got Don Jr. His dad is Don. Then you got an Andy and an Andrew, and I'm like, yeah, stop right now. Stop right now. Gina says, Hoodie Jack. Yeah, Hoodie Jack, they say they don't think is involved. Well, so who have they come out and said, well, they haven't come out and said they think anyone's involved. Scratch that. By process of elimination, I mean, they haven't, said all the people, when the whole tribe came over to call 911, then they don't think any of them are involved. Shit, I don't know. I'm at a loss, dude.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we don't have more information about the tribe that you're referring to, because I think with the timing, there could definitely still be someone in that time frame being involved for sure.
Mm-hmm. 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 And like I said, just because they say we don't think they're involved, like I said, that can be easily remedied. They just got done processing the house, okay? They can easily, just because they said that, doesn't mean that they can't turn around in a week or so and say, but now that we have new evidence, it happens often.
Yes, it does.
It happens often. And for one thing is, as long as they don't want people on social media hounding these people and then them say, run off to Africa like one did. There's a dude vacationing in Africa right now.
That was one of the responders when the 911 call was made.
I don't know that he was there for that.
Okay, he's just in the circle of friends.
Yep, in the circle jerk for sure.
Well, that's sus in itself as well.
Mm-hmm. Not a time for a vacation when somebody might need to ask you something.
Africa's kind of a weird place to vacation too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything against Africa.
Actually, a cousin of mine just got back. Him and his family went to watch a safari.
Oh, yeah, my sister went back in June on a wild game safari. Pictures were just amazing. Not
Oh,
only of all the crazy animals, but just the land and the layout of that beautiful country. It is a beautiful country. I wasn't trying to say that Africa was like a piece of crap or anything.
mm-hmm.
Just odd, you know. Usually people go to Mexico or Europe if they're going to go out of the country.
If he even is, we don't know. I mean, I haven't seen a picture of him standing next to an elephant yet. And if he did, I'm going to question if it's at a damn zoo. Okay. We know how these cases go. We know how it goes. We know how it goes. So Brian Enton, there's a little clip of him where he talks about how Kaylee's injuries are more extensive. He doesn't go into any detail, but I do want to know why he keeps standing outside in the damn snow. I saw him and it was like a damn chicken. Okay, chickens don't have the sense to come out of the rain. Does Brian Enton not? Find a studio. He's always standing outside with the snow coming down on him, or
Well,
get out of the
he's the
snow.
he's the on location reporter. Where else is he going to stand? You don't get the same effect if he's chilling in his hotel room.
Get the
And I guess
hell out
there
of the
was
cold.
no neighbors to be paid on this one.
Get the hell out of the cold. Makes me cold. Dear
I can't
God.
stand the cold.
No. Don't have the sense God gave a goose. Get the hell out of the cold.
Good evening. I'm Brian Enton, live in Moscow, Idaho, for this News Nation special report. 3 weeks ago, the unthinkable happened in this house behind me. 4 university students brutally murdered here. Their killer not only is still on the run, but still all of this remains a mystery 3 weeks later. And we have breaking news tonight. New details that we have just confirmed. News Nation is learning that Kaylee Goncalves' injuries were significantly more brutal than her best friend Maddie's injuries, which may end up being a very, very important piece of evidence when it comes to determining.
Okay, it is very, very, very important that somebody has what I would call, just slang here, overkill. I want to know who did the comparison. Is this Steve talking to Maddie's dad? I don't think old Steve got to go in and examine the bodies for himself. So I understand that has come out. Or is it just process? I mean, are we just doing deductive reasoning? Because the coroner said to the local media that most had one fatal stab wound, but he's particularly saying Maddie. Where are we getting this comparison? Because I don't think the other parents are giving Steve any inside knowledge on what's going on. I understand it's probably from the funeral home. Do we have knowledge from the other funeral homes? Do we know what are the funeral homes telling Steve about Ethan's injuries and Xana's injuries? Am I making sense? I feel like I'm talking in circles. Somebody help me.
No, you make sense, and it's a valid question. I would have to think it would be straight from Kaylee's dad. He seems to be pretty forthcoming.
Oh, I know it came from him. I got that. How does he know the injuries of the other three? That's all I want to know. Because for him to know Kaylee's is so much worse, is he just basing it on what's in the news? Or did Madison's dad say, well, no, Madison has one injury? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would revert back to what I said earlier. If she had something like a slit throat, I would deem that being worse as a chest wound. If you're able to deduce that from the standpoint of having that knowledge.
And he said he's not speaking to the other parents and he won't speak on other children. This is specifically about Maddie. I don't know. It's just a question that I have.
He said specifically he's not speaking to the other parents or hasn't?
No, he said that he won't speak on other people's children, that he hasn't spoken to them.
Okay. Because I don't know, if I was him or any of their parents, I would be in a big huddle, at least on a daily basis, just having a hive mind on anything that you could figure out more than what law enforcement is providing.
I would too. It doesn't seem to me to be the case.
It's a little odd.
Thank you, Beckfest, for becoming a new member. Thank you very much. So I'm just wondering where the comparison's coming from. So let me look at this.
Who the target was in this attack. I have learned Kaylee and Maddie were in an upstairs room in the house, so the killer had to go specifically upstairs to get to them. And again, that new information just confirmed that Kaylee's injuries were, quote, significantly more brutal.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com.
Jay was up there by himself. Okay, significantly more brutal. I don't know where the comparison came from. I don't know if Steve saw all 4 autopsies laid out, if he was told that by the police, or if it's just based on conversations with Maddie's dad, because the coroner, or he's just doing his own research by what's in the media. The coroner said most, in quotes, of them had just one lethal stab wound. Fatal wounds to chest or upper body area. That doesn't mean everybody was stabbed one time. So I want to clear that up. Jamie.
I'm sorry.
No, you're right. Jane, I was just reading Jamie's comment. She said, so Brian got that info from who? They're leaving a lot of stuff out. And I'm sure he speaks to Maddie's family quite a bit. The kids grew up together. The kids did grow up together.
But didn't he end that interview saying, quote, more brutal? Did
more
he quote?
Mm-hmm.
Did he say, quote?
Yeah, and a lot of people say because he got it from the funeral home. Well, I'm sure he did, because he said, I paid for that funeral. That's my information. But he didn't pay for Maddie's funeral. There's got to be, he has to know somehow, somewhere, that when he says the means don't match, well, what's the comparison? I'm just curious. I'm not doubting the guy. I'm not saying Steve just wants to have the worst crime, or Steve just wants his daughter to be in. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just wondering.
To me, that goes back to being Kaylee as the obvious target. If she was killed in a different manner than the rest, you look at her having a larger than life social media presence. It really seems like that she was the target.
Do you guys, let's ask everybody. I don't even know how to do this poll. I don't even know. We'd have to do like 2 separate polls. Who do you think is the target? I'll just say it like that. No one, as in it's just a random Ted Bundy out there. One of the victims, or what we heard last week when they backed the truck up and said there was a miscommunication. It could be the house. Something associated with the house. I don't know. What do you guys think? Because I'm all over the place. Normally, early on, I already know which way I'm going. This, I don't know. Blonderella said, oh, no, it wasn't Blonderella. Blonderella said Ethan. Lala said the blondes. A lot of people said Kaylee Seagate thinks it's random. Nothing's going to shock me. Nothing's going to shock me. If you came out and said this reporter right here, who's an idiot standing in the snow like Brian Enton, get out of the snow, people. We don't think you're working harder because you're standing out in the cold. If they came out and said, oh, it's one of the reporters, I'd be like, well, that makes a lot of sense. I would. I'd say, yeah, that makes sense. Because it's the craziest case ever.
I don't think it fits the profile of a serial killer. Definitely not a Ted Bundy style serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not a John Gainwasey style serial killer.
Not like
It's
the guy in
just-
Gainesville either.
It's just too, I'm going to use the word again, anomalous, that the two roommates on the bottom floor saw nothing, heard nothing, and nothing happened to them.
Marilyn said Steve viewed the bodies himself. I wouldn't give anybody permission to view my child's body. No way. No way in hell. You want to go look at your child and their injuries, but you're not going to. No, there's no way. I don't know if that's what happened or not. And I just, right now, I'm thinking that they knew the killer somehow.
Yeah, it's so hard to have an accurate profile without knowing a motive.
And they keep saying that this whole stalker rumor, the police can't find a stalker. I do have a clip where Kaylee's dad, before I get to this, is talking about the stalker. I don't know the dynamics between the parents and the kids, but somebody would have gotten a name if she was complaining about being stalked. Well, who is this guy? Or who is this girl? Is it just somebody that's just standing outside when you come out of class? Are they just liking pictures like all the way back to 2016? Who is this person? Nobody has a name. That's why I'm thinking that this is just something that they are addressing, but they don't really know, because this is what he says. This is how he is reasoning the stalker thing.
More about a lot of people have been wondering if Kaylee had a stalker, if that was really true.
I said this, she's a pretty girl, her friends are really pretty, so them attracting attention was pretty common wherever they went. So I think she attracted attention, whether that's a dedicated person following her around, maybe not. I do believe that the officers looked in it, and I believe what they said, that there was no evidence.
So he said there's no evidence, but they're pretty girls, so they would get attention.
Right, which leads me back to what I'd said initially, that it does fit the profile of an incel type killer.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
say
been brought up a lot. Explain that.
Well, say that he's loved Kaylee from afar. She's the target. He knew that he couldn't have her, and said, if I can't have her, nobody's gonna have her. I'm smart enough to know that if I do kill her and perform SA, then I'm gonna leave my DNA. I'm not gonna get caught that way. I'm just gonna go in there and take her out. Now I don't know what floor she lives on, so I'm just gonna go in on the entry level floor and check the first bedroom. Find two, Ethan and Xana. Oh, that's not her, but they've already seen me. Got to take them out. Next room upstairs, we find her. He takes. Sorry, I'm forgetting her name.
Xana?
Maddie. Is it Maddie?
Maddie.
That was with Kaylee. Takes
Yes.
her out. Gets to Kaylee, which would explain why her wounds were more brutal.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Makes
I mean,
sense.
that's a Occam's razor for you, but of course, it's never simple.
Oh no, it's gonna be twisted. When this all comes out, we're gonna be like, what? It's gonna be a 5-part show, because the first show is gonna be my dumb ass going, now what? Now what? Over and over. Blonde said, I worked in property management and we could pull the data from the coded entry locked, what times, dates the codes are entered. I am so glad she brought this up. It was like that at my son's apartment too. So they knew when everybody was coming in and coming out. I don't know if this guy has property management per se, but I'm really curious as to what kind of locking system we had inside the house. Because like I said, kids, they take stuff from each other. I'm not saying there's any thieves in the house or anything like that, or this is over someone's bag of Doritos or anything like that. But they do in these shared homes like this or shared apartments, they make sure that those doors will lock. They don't want the landlord getting called all the time saying, hey, my great grandpa's watch was sitting right here and it's not here anymore. Well, did you lock your bedroom door like I told you, Skippy? Oh, no, it's broken. Okay, well, I'm going to put locks on there that the minute you shut that door, it locks. Because that's how it was there. And then you have a code to get in or you have a key.
So we know that the landlord lives in Colorado. Do we know, though, that there was any kind of maintenance men or contracted workers there at the house any time before? Has that
No
been said
idea.
at all?
We just heard that Xana's dad went there and fixed a lock. They said her lock. So I would just, the way that it was phrased, her lock, I'm assuming it's her lock to get into her room.
Yeah. I don't know. It just also kind of brings to mind, what was the young lady's name? And I believe it was Florida. Maya. Happened right about the time of the Gabby Petito case. It was a maintenance man at the apartment complex that killed her. You know what I'm talking about? Her name was Maya.
Yeah,
Maya
I
something.
do remember that. And for maintenance, when you're renting for maintenance on the inside, you don't have to pay. It's part of your lease. So it's not a matter of dad doing it for free. If there's something broke on the landlord's property, they have to come fix it. Like your heat goes out, you don't have to pay for new heat. They have to come and fix it. That's why I
Correct.
wondered, did they say we have a lock that's broke on the inside and the landlord said they'll be over there on Monday? Or dad just said, I'm going to do it myself. I don't know. It doesn't get added onto your tab.
Yeah, which is why I said, to me, it seems more like it was a situation of worrying about something being stolen or just absolutely not trusting the foot traffic in the house.
Yeah, Mama Kay said, I'm talking about the property owners. If dad wants to fix it, dad can fix it. They might have been like, if you want to do it, do it. Then I don't have to pay for it. I'd have been one really hacked off tenant.
Yeah, I mean, in the smaller picture, you don't think of it as too big of a deal, even though privacy is of the utmost and should be.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you look at the big picture in hindsight, something like a door lock not functioning properly or needing more efficient door lock, then it is a really big deal.
Who knows the way kids are? She could have been talking to her dad and just mentioned, oh, yeah, well, my door doesn't lock. He could have been, being dad. Well, just make sure you keep your doors locked. Oh, yeah, well, my lock's been broke for a while, and they have to have some kind of maintenance crew because you've got people moving in, moving out. You got the beginning of the semester. You got to paint the room. You got to get it all fixed up for them.
Yeah, I would say, judging by that happening, that her dad was probably a little more hands-on and communicated with her fairly often, because if it was a situation where he was like, I'm going to come fix that, and she's like, no, Dad, it's not that important, then he might not have done it.
Mm-hmm.
But him having the will to do it and her being there for him, to me, shows that there was a strong communication and relationship of accepting whatever the dad wanted done or insisted on.
Yep, that's true. Well, I got way off on that tangent, but I do want to know about the locks on the inside of the house. Now I want to know about maintenance. Do they have maintenance that shows up? Because if you are a landlord and you have a lease with someone, you cannot put off certain things. You just can't. If you have a tenant that's okay with it, then I guess That's one thing, but they're certainly not getting their money's worth. All right, let's get to this interview real quick. This is where he talks about the funeral. I paid for that funeral, so here we go.
Edition of Cross Country in Moscow, Idaho. Tonight we are in front of the Moscow Police Department, and you may be asking why. It's been about 3 weeks since the horrific stabbing death of 4 college students at the University of Idaho. 3 weeks since we lost Zayna, Maddie, Kaylee, and Ethan. 3 weeks, and still the police have no suspect or person of interest. The community has been left in limbo, left with more confusion and more questions. We are on the hunt for answers for them. Moscow deserves answers. The students of the university deserve answers. These 4 young innocent victims deserve answers, and so do their families. So let's start there. Joining me now on set, the parents of Kaylee Gonzalez, Christy and Steve Gonzalez. Thank y'all so much for being with me. You guys have been so transparent and strong for the public. Christy, you called the person that did this the boogeyman.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
It's literally like what nightmares are made of. Like when you're a little kid and you think of the boogeyman, that's just how I feel. Like that's just the horrific details of everything. Them just having a good time, going home and going to bed, and that's happening to them.
Your best friend crawling into bed.
Just crawling in bed.
Every
and
girl
the
in
boogeyman
America
comes.
knows what that's
The
like.
boogeyman doesn't, meet you at McDonald's. I mean, the boogeyman comes and snatches you out of your bedroom.
Steve, we've been talking. I've been talking to folks in the community. You said something that stuck with me. You said, until this person is caught, you can't sleep in your bed.
No, I can't just lay in my bed and do nothing. That's not the way I raised my family. That's not the way I raised my girls and my son. You don't be a victim. You stand up for yourself and you do everything in your power to make sure people hear you. And they're gonna hear Kaylee. They're gonna hear Maddie. They're gonna hear these.
The other 2 as well.
Yes.
All of them.
I'm careful saying anything about them because I need to be careful because I can't speak on somebody else's child. But these 2 girls, I'm not trying to be a glory hound, but these 2 girls, I'm going to do what I can do. And we're not being victims. We're going to fight. We're going to figure out how to make sure that we hold everybody, accountable, and we keep eyes and attention on this and get this thing resolved.
All right. So when Kaylee's mom is talking about the boogeyman, a lot of people kind of read into that, which is usually my job to reach far. I don't think she means like we have a Michael Myers or anything. She explained herself well. And like what he's saying, he even does mention he doesn't want the case to go cold. I don't know if he mentions it in this. And he's going to keep talking so that this case is in the forefront. Is that what you're taking?
Yeah, and what jumps out at me is him saying, I got to be careful. It's almost like he started to say not to say too much, or maybe he even did say not to say too much. That leads me to believe that he does know for sure how the others were succumbed, by way of speaking to the parents, because he doesn't want to speak on behalf of the parents. He doesn't want to say anything about their child that they wouldn't say themselves.
So he does know a lot more, and
I believe so.
Yeah, and he's saying, look, I do know more, but I'm not saying anything, so the police can trust me.
I believe so. I was looking at that first picture, still shot of the kids. I call them kids. They're young. Obviously, they're not kids, but young adults. And I don't know that if somebody walked into a dark bedroom, that you would be able to tell the difference between Kaylee and Maddie.
That's what I was thinking too.
I don't think I would, even if I had seen both of them more than once.
And it's dark. I know some people are like, oh, don't be silly. Kind of like when I bring up the roommates not waking up. They're like, oh, don't be stupid. But it's dark. Did a bat do this? No. You have to be able to see. If you have a target, then you need to know what the target is. How do we know? Like you said, they have basically the same hair.
Yeah, they're very, very similar in appearance.
And it was dark. What are the odds you go into the room and they're both in there? The room that was approached on the 3rd floor is Maddie's room. What, did we go into an empty room and say, I'm going to try the next one? If Dylan and Bethany had their doors locked, why wouldn't everybody else? Just a question.
Yeah, and
I'm getting off on that again. Somebody put me in the corner.
say that he had to turn on the light, or the killer had to turn on the light to know who is who. You would think that would wake him up. You would think, again, that a struggle would ensue that would cause more ruckus, more sound, and alert the roommates. It's just so baffling.
Unless they knew the person, and it's someone that's like,
Well,
look,
right.
we need
Unless
to
they were
talk. I'm
welcomed
going to
in.
sit here and talk to you too.
No question of why that person was in the house or in their room.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about it on Friday. If, you know, it's been said many times, this could be an ex-military person or something like that. They could have, like you said, we were talking about training and night vision goggles.
Night vision, yeah. But even with night vision, you still wouldn't be able to tell them two apart.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. Even laying side by side. No, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Steve, you have made it very clear to our audience that you are supportive of law enforcement. You support the investigation. But recently, I've been watching and talking with you, and you're getting frustrated. Where does that frustration come from, sir?
They put certain people between you and the officers that are making things happen, and those people are like lawyers, and they don't want to say anything, and they don't have the guts to come up and be alpha and be like leaders and say, hey, we might say something that's wrong, we're going to take that hit. So the officers, they look me straight in their eyes. The lead detective looked me in his eyes. I have no doubt he's working as hard as he can, but somebody isn't communicating. There's nothing being released. It seems like they're trying to suppress the story. We want to put rewards out. They're like, don't do that. Yeah, I get it. Your town doesn't want to have reward posters posted all over when you come and you do your rush. You're not going to get a lot of students if they see those things.
Now here, who is he talking about specifically that doesn't want this talked about? Are we talking about the university, or are we talking about police? He says, I don't want this story suppressed, which he's good there. Trust me, it's being talked about. It's being talked about. Oh, Gabe Gutierrez is still outside with the Today Show. Brian Inton just showed up. Fox, I think they're going to set up permanent residence until this is solved. That's for sure. But I love, we just talked about that on Friday. Is Steve watching the show? Welcome, Steve. We said, look, don't think that the university is not part of this. The university is a huge part of this because, like you said, you don't want tip line posters everywhere when you're doing rush and you're getting people to come to this school. That is a big, big, big part of it. Who wants it suppressed?
Because I don't think that there's any, unless there's just some weird city code, which I'm pretty sure is not the case. I don't think that there's any rules or laws that says you can't hang up a reward poster. So if they're being denied that, that's strictly political. And I don't mean left, right. I mean money over anything else involving the university. And they're the ones that are putting the foot down on that.
Yep. Indie Girl goes, sounds like the university wants it hush hush. Of course.
Yeah, they want to save face.
A lot of people who are graduating, they're in their senior year right now and are applying to colleges and wanted to go to University of Idaho, or like, Murder U doesn't sound like the school for me. See, yeah, I think I'm going to be going to Boise. You know, I might apply for out-of-state tuition, but I don't think so. I don't think so. Yep, NH Girl said, well, it's a little too late for hush hush. That's true. That is true.
Yeah,
because
took the words right
somebody's
out of my mouth.
going around that town taking down the tip line posters, and that person did not get any sort of charges or anything on them. I thought
That's
that was
just
odd.
unfortunate. And it's got to be completely frustrating for the parents.
Okay, and thank you, Stacy. We want to know the truth. Stacy said hoodie guy did not go to Africa. That was a rumor. All right, so hoodie guy is not in Africa. Okay, so we can check that off the list, Jay.
Okay.
I mean, he
I'll
wasn't
stop singing the song now.
Okay, I mean, he wasn't bringing me back a souvenir or anything, but good to know that he didn't just up and go to a different continent.
That was a Toto reference.
It's a good song too.
Or Weezer if you're a millennial.
Now I'm going to have it in my head all day, Jay.
You're welcome.
Going to have it in my head all day.
But this community is not going to heal until this guy's pulled off the streets. It ain't going to happen. Think it through. It's not going to happen. He has to be off the streets. We all are working for the same thing.
When was the last time y'all heard from the police?
Thursday, we looked at our phone records. We want to be accurate. We don't want to sell anyone out.
About 3 o'clock on Thursday.
And
Did y'all
they
get an update from the police about the investigation?
There was nothing. We have no updates for
there
you.
was no update. They needed me to sign a waiver form so that they could investigate something
Some mail.
that was mail related. So we're working with them. We're not selling them out. We love our loss.
Now, this has really got a lot of people going too, and I don't think the reporter standing in the cold in the snow obviously didn't catch what he said. He said mail related. Do they mean U.S. postal mail or do they mean mail as in a man? Hang on.
Yeah, please.
It's not going to happen. He has to be off the streets. We all are working for the same thing.
When was the last time y'all heard from the police?
Thursday, we looked at our phone records. We want to be accurate. We don't want to sell anyone out.
About 3 o'clock on Thursday.
And
Did
they
y'all
needed,
get an update from the police about the investigation?
There was nothing. We have no updates for
there
you.
was no update. They needed me to sign a waiver form so that they could investigate something
Some mail.
that was mail related. So we're working with them. We're not selling them.
Okay, they need to investigate something that is mail related, M-A-I-L.
Yeah, but even before that, he said when he was referring to the killer. And that could just be, something Freudian, as we don't like to think of women as a sadistic killer. But he did say he. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm just looking at the comments. He's talking about the mail, the actual mail. They need, with everything going on, they need permission to open her mail.
Right, but a couple of breaths before that is what I was referring to whenever he referred to the killer as he.
Yes, that was a lot of the confusion, because just out of normal talk, people say he. I mean, you can have a room full of women and say, "Hey guys,
That's
you're not."
actually one of my pet peeves. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So he says mail, so they can go through her mail. Okay, well, Stacy said a piece of mail might be suspicious. That, or they just need to make sure they go through the mail and make sure that's checked off their box, that nobody was sending her. Now, that would be a weird stalker to be using the postal service.
Wouldn't be the first.
Wouldn't be the first. But I don't know if he realizes that's actually huge. And he said it on Fox that they need permission to open her mail. I did not know that with an ongoing investigation and someone who was murdered, that they would need permission to look at their mail.
Well,
I learned something new every day.
we know the FBI is involved, and mail is always federal. So it could be a situation of jurisdiction.
That could be it. How polite of them.
I will mention also, though, that these days, there's a lot of drug deals that take place by U.S. mail.
Mm-hmm.
Something to think about.
It's just odd to me that they would need their permission. She's over 18. We need
Evidence is evidence.
She's over 18. I don't know. That's weird. I'm going to find out more about that and those damn locks.
Come out. We love our law support.
the FBI, everybody that's here. We just have no information as family, and it's tough day after day after day. I mean, every day you just wake up and think today's the day. We're going to hear something, and you see these, oh, there's a break in the case, and it'll just be something stupid.
The sixth person on the lease that was never there. Stop playing games. This is serious. These are people's lives, and this is the...
Okay, so he's talking freely. He's not even being asked questions. That's why this is an important thing to say. He said the sixth person on the lease. He's acting like that's not a big deal. There wasn't a sixth person. Listen to it again.
Every day you just wake up and think today's the day. We're going to hear something, and you see these, oh, there's a break in the case, and it'll just be something stupid.
The sixth person on the lease that was never there. Stop.
The sixth person on the lease that was never there. What does he mean never there? They never even moved in the first place, or they weren't even home? I don't know. Like I said, they're freely talking. At least we know we don't have to worry about the sixth roommate, the person that was on the lease. They're saying that's stupid. They hadn't even moved in yet, or they were moved out. I don't know.
Someone was asking.
What's up?
I keep doing that. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Someone was asking in chat if it was the BTK killer that sent Mel. For some reason, I was thinking it was the son of Sam. Do you know which one it was?
BTK sent mail.
Okay.
There's a lot of killers that have sent mail. They got to rule everything out. I just think it's odd that you would even have to ask anybody what if somebody dies and they have they have nobody in their life. Nobody, I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, they're crossing their I's. I'm sorry. They're dotting their I's and crossing their T's. And he said, they're saying that these breaking news updates, they're saying are just stupid. They're like sixth person on the lease that wasn't even there. That's just stupid.
Yeah, not necessarily breaking.
What's that? Go ahead.
I said not necessarily breaking.
Yeah. They're like, this is just stupid.
In fact, I hate it, like being on Twitter so much. Breaking news. If the world's not about to blow up, don't tell me it's breaking news.
Yeah. And with this, we have so much breaking news. You're only going to hear it here, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, but do you have a suspect? Do you have a person of interest? Do you have anything? I can see why they would be so frustrated.
Yeah.
Lives, and this is the future of this community. There's going to be 10,000, 15,000 kids that come into this community next year, or they don't. So I'm serious.
I had the opportunity to speak to some of my sources.
All right. So he's getting that dig in again. 10, 15,000 that come into this community, or they don't. Be serious. So that's another dig to me at the university. Hey, if you're not selling books and you're not selling education, you don't have a town. So either you treat this in a different way, or you're going to have a pretty empty school.
And I've been told that there were differences in the way that the victims were killed. Some were more severe than the other. And this week we heard the target attack walk back and then reverse it back to it being a targeted attack. What can you tell us about the targeted attack?
They have told us that it was targeted, but they told us they can't tell who. We asked specifically, and they said, we'll try to get that information to you. And they got back to us a day or so later, and they said, we're sorry, we can't give you that information. But then a day later, we saw in the news that it was not targeted.
Have they thought, and this is in no way, shape, or form disrespectful to Kaylee's parents, that they just don't know? They're 3 weeks in. There's a ton of information, a ton of social media. I mean, we're talking texting, direct messages, several different platforms, fraternity, sororities. I know early on the families came out and they said, listen, There's no love triangle here. There's no drugs. There's no high risk behavior. Well, families don't know. I'm sorry, they don't know. No disrespect, but they just don't know. So my question is, could it be that they aren't getting this information because they just don't know yet? Could that be it?
Very likely. And I would, yeah, let me try that again. I would actually think that that's not so much incompetence. It's just the gravity of the case.
Yeah, they just may not know. And can they risk, not just in this case, but other cases? We've covered many, many cases on this channel, and me talking directly to victims' families. There's been some where they're like, we're going to keep you in the loop, no worries. And there's been some that they've said, we can't risk the investigation because loose lips do sink ships. You may not even realize what we're telling you is important, and you might say it to someone else, and there went our case.
Right. You also don't want to put any innocent person in way of harm either.
Exactly.
They think the whole house
Yes.
is targeted. But
I'll cut to the chase.
Yeah.
Their means of death don't match.
Maddie's
They don't.
and Kaylee's cause of death, it does not match based on the autopsy report.
They don't match.
Would indicate that one of them.
He doesn't have to
may
go
have
up
been
the
target.
steps. Let's stop playing games, guys. I need somebody.
He doesn't have to go up the steps.
Okay, that's the second time he said he in
Mhm.
the same interview.
I think he's just assuming it's a man that did this. He says, I'll cut to the chase. He doesn't have to go up the steps. People are taking that two different ways.
I don't know. When I'm saying let's cut to the chase or I'm cutting to the chase, that means I'm speaking from conviction.
Yeah.
It means I know what I'm talking about. If you know what you're talking about, that means you have the information, at least some information.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to think that they feel like they know who it is.
Well, and they're saying, why won't they tell us the alibi? They shouldn't have cleared people so fast, which we said
Right.
that on here. I totally agree with him. We're too early in the game unless it was somebody that was, 5 hours away, or somebody that was in the next state, or somebody who doesn't even know them. I mean, I guess I could see that, but no, because we can't go and accuse the whole damn town. But it seems to me too early to rule out anybody that has access to them. That's just me, though.
I agree 100%.
Their means of death don't match.
Maddie's
They don't.
and Kaylee's cause of death, it does not match based on the autopsy report.
They don't match.
Would indicate that one of them.
He doesn't have to
may
go
have
up
been
the
target.
steps.
All right. The reporter says, based on the autopsy report, they don't confirm where they got that information from. It makes sense. I don't know how he has access to the other kids' autopsies unless it's just talking to the parents. I don't know. But then he says he didn't have to go up the steps. Listen to how he says it.
Don't match.
Would indicate that one of them.
He doesn't have to
may
go
have
up the
been target.
steps. Let's stop playing games, guys. I need somebody to step up and be an alpha, be somebody to be a leader. Don't make me do it. I don't want to do it. He doesn't have to go up the steps. Their points of damage don't match. I'm just gonna say it. It wasn't leaked to me. I earned that. I paid for that funeral. I paid for that. It's my right. You ain't taking that from me.
calm down.
If you don't want to say nothing, that's your bet. But don't say I'm leaking anything. I paid that bill.
Okay. I'm not leaking anything. I paid that bill. He said it twice. He didn't have to go up the steps. Meaning your target was Ethan or your target was Xana. So you didn't need to go upstairs. You didn't need to do anything to my daughter. They were on the top floor, up the steps. Your target wasn't the girls on the first floor.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely what that means. There's no other way around it.
Kat says, Dad means since the perp came in the second floor sliding door, he didn't have to go up the literal steps. Is he being literal? He just walked in the sliding door and didn't have to go up the steps? Well, he went up the steps because he went up a flight of stairs to the third floor to kill Kaylee and Madison.
When he says that, he's biting his tongue before that comes out. He was holding it back. And then he says, I'm not leaking it, you know.
I mean, because literally we can figure out that part of it. Literally, the killer walked in, whether it is from the front door, but he's saying he didn't have to go up the steps. So if we're just taking literally how he got in, well, if he literally came through the sliding glass door, he didn't have to go up the steps. Okay, because Ethan and Xana are on the second floor. He didn't have to go up any stairs. He didn't have to go up any steps. So what is he saying? He didn't have to go up the steps and kill my daughter? Well, she was on the third floor.
That's the way I'm reading it.
Olivia is reading it that way too. Him saying he didn't have to go up the steps honestly makes it sound like Ethan and Xana were the targets. And then we have the 5-hour gap. Everyone's trying to figure out where were Ethan and Xana. They were seen at the frat party. And from there, we don't know.
I heard something about them going to a bar afterwards. Of course, that's just, hearsay at this moment.
Yeah, she thinks that. I heard that too.
Yeah.
Seattle Ryan said, no, the girls were targeted. Otherwise, he would need to not go upstairs. But if the girls are the target, they're on the third floor, he would have to go up the steps. The dad's saying he didn't have to go up the steps.
And you see, that's what threw me off as well about it possibly not being a person as a target, but an item. An item being on the second floor.
Or an item on the third floor. Or it could just be, he didn't have to go up and kill my daughter. He didn't have to go up those steps. He didn't have to do anything to my daughter. He didn't have to kill Madison. He didn't have to kill Kaylee. He could mean it that way too.
But that does make it sound like his daughter's more important than Ethan and Xana, which rightfully so in that situation. My daughter would be the most important thing in my world. I would speak with the utmost importance and favoritism, but just a thought.
Yep. Seattle Ryan said, no, he is saying Kaylee and Maddie were the targets. Otherwise, they would not have to go upstairs. But you have to go upstairs to get to Kaylee and Maddie. You would have to go upstairs. The killer had to go upstairs if they're the target. The only ones that are accessible from the ground would be the surviving roommates on floor 1 or Xana and Ethan on floor 2. Anybody else, you would have to go up steps to get to. So I'm really confused by the situation. Well, obviously the situation, the phrasing. All right, here. He explains it a little bit, but not in this one. Hang on.
Sent my daughter to college to get an education. She came back in the box, and I can speak on that.
I was also told from sources that are closer to an investigation, because there was a lot of roommates in there. And this was horrific for those roommates that were there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
The preservation of this crime scene. Witnesses tell me that it may have well been preserved because the phone was passed around between one of the fraternity members and the girls. One of them unfortunately witnessed the death, the body there. Can you confirm that?
We cannot actually. We know nothing about that whole phone call. We've asked, and I know that a lot of people want to know, but that's just not our agenda. We just are like, somebody called 911, somebody was reported unconscious. We don't really know. We've heard so many different things, and nothing has been clarified or been told to us at all. And I don't know if I personally have asked anything about that. I don't know if you have asked that, but we know that this is getting 3 weeks in and it's starting to get, we don't want it to go cold. We're reaching out. I reached out to friends down in California today that have connections that we're hoping to raise some money to get a reward, to get a private investigator.
Third party.
Third party.
Why go the private route? Do y'all worry that at the end of this week that this case may be cold?
We're scared.
When you tell me you don't want a photo up there with the reward offering information, that kind of sounds like you're trying to like suppress the story. I mean, why do you not need help? But hey, I could be wrong. And you officers, I apologize if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I want to, please forgive me. Please forgive me. But if you don't have the information, people do know. If they don't, then, you know, the community, this is a community that is IT based. These guys live a digital footprint like we've never. All of us older people, we don't know how much that digital footprint could be helpful. So that's what we asked for. I hope like a DNA, family lineage, if they could come out here and just start taking, this town is not that big. We could figure out this, and it might not be him. It might be a family member. We have family all going to the school together, you know?
Okay, I'm going to interrupt him right there because we have some awesome comments coming out. All right, Jamie said, unless he was hiding on the third floor. We had a show last week where we said, was this person laying in wait? Was this person in the house waiting? So let's say Kaylee and Madison are the target. They could have already been on the third floor, didn't have to go up the stairs because they were already up there waiting on them. That could be a possibility, a big possibility.
That's a very good point.
Because he's not saying exactly. I don't expect him to. And as far as the case going cold, it's nowhere near cold. A cold case is 10, 15, 20 years where they only grab the file if something just happens to pop up. He wouldn't know that. And I'm sure to him, it already feels like a lifetime because it's been 3 weeks since his daughter was murdered.
No doubt.
And he doesn't want anybody telling him to hush up, even though he doesn't understand that sometimes the more you speak, you could be making this killer go further into hiding or further away. Whereas they could have been at the vigil, could have been the person taking down the flyers. That could be part of it too. I don't know who exactly is telling him to pipe down. If it's the university, if he's getting that vibe from them, or if it was the police themselves.
Okay, so let's think about that though. If he was lying in wait, how would he know still that he didn't have to go up the stairs?
You're going to have to get to the third floor somehow.
Right.
So unless Spider-Man jumped on the roof, then jumped on the balcony and walked in the sliding door that's on the third floor, somebody had to climb stairs. So when he said you didn't have to climb the stairs, you didn't have to go up the steps, it could either just be a metaphor. You didn't need to kill my daughter. You didn't have to kill my daughter. You didn't have to go up those steps. A metaphor. Or you already had your target. You already got Xana and Ethan, but we don't know who was killed first either. They haven't put that out yet. I wouldn't be surprised if they went upstairs, killed Kaylee and Madison, came back downstairs, and Ethan was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But some people are like, no, I think Ethan and Xana, one or the other, is definitely the target. I don't know. I'm talking myself into a corner again. It's confusing.
There's just so many scenarios. I mean, I can see if he did go to Kaylee and Maddie first and there was noise made, Ethan woke up, or even Xana woke up and said, what was that? And Ethan says, I don't know. I'll go check it out. Opens the door or walks in the hallway and is immediately met by the killer.
Yep. The order would be very helpful. I mean, I don't think that they're scurrying around to help me out, but I'm very curious as to who the order for sure.
And that's why I feel like it has to be a male and not a female, just to be able to completely overpower all four of them in any kind of situation you look at it. The only way is if they were all sound asleep whenever they were killed and no one heard anything. And that, to me, that's just very unlikely.
Mm-hmm. The order definitely matters. Order, the motive. You know, if you was he already in the house, or were they sound asleep and snuck in? I still think somebody had to have been waiting for the right time, whether it's inside the house or they stood outside Brian Enton style in the cold and got in when the opportunity was right. I don't know.
Well, there's cousins, there's aunts, there's uncles. We could find this guy
Those,
just with volunteers.
lineage companies were,
Put Idaho on the map.
Christy, Steve, we're going to stay on this case.
Thank you.
We're not going anywhere.
Thank you.
You guys have been candid with us. We'll keep asking questions. Any resource that we have available, our audience is praying for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. It was big for you guys to come back to Moscow tonight. I know it took a lot of courage to do it, and I'm hoping we can get some answers for you. Thanks so much for joining me tonight.
Okay. Okay, that's a lot to take in. That's a lot to take in. All right, so he speaks on Fox and Friends. I played a little bit of the clip where Steve spoke to Brian Enton. He was in the house. They were sitting in a living room where there's heat running, so that was good. Brian didn't drag him out into the snow. So, but he did talk to Fox and Friends yesterday. I have it linked. I put it on the channel yesterday. You have to go like through it's like halfway through a 30-minute segment. So they asked him specifically and he answered. It clears it up maybe a little bit, but here we go.
What I'm hearing from people everywhere, that they are with you, they're praying for you, and they're also hoping for justice to come sooner rather than later for your daughter and her friends. You mentioned here, you talked about the manner in which Kaylee and Maddie were killed is different. And what does that tell you? And what are the police telling you that means?
There's a couple things that tell me with common sense, but I'm not a professional, so I want to specify that. But they said the entry point was the slider or the window. It was in the middle floor. So to me.
Okay. Now he's given facts. Okay. They say the point of entry was the sliding door. So that would be on floor 2.
But there's no forced entry. How did they know that that was the point of entry?
That I don't know, because they didn't break in. Unless it's that handprint, unless there is that handprint that keeps going around. I don't know.
Right, but just because that may have been the exit doesn't mean it was the entry.
Well, let's listen to how he says it again. He's saying definitively that's how they got in. And no, I don't know how they know.
With common sense, but
and what does that tell you? And what are the police telling you that means?
There's a couple things that tell me with common sense, but I'm not a professional, so I want to specify that. But they've said the entry point was the slider or the window. It was in the middle floor. So to me, he doesn't have to go upstairs. His entry and exit are available without having to go upstairs or downstairs. Looks like he probably may have not gone downstairs. We don't know that for sure, but he obviously went upstairs. So I'm using logic that he chose to go up there when he didn't have to. And I can kind of tell by my daughter's texts, messages. She did call 911. She wasn't.
We're going to have to listen to that again. All right. So through the sliding door, he went up there when he didn't have to. So that leads us to believe that his target is on the second floor because he didn't have to go upstairs.
Okay. So I think that could be where Kaylee's father is coming from too, knowing that the said entry was the slider door. That could be why he said he didn't have to go upstairs. Now, also, you could deduce that that would be the order of the killings as well.
Say that again.
You could deduct from that statement that he came in through the sliding glass door that the order of killings would have been Ethan and Xana, and then Maddie and Kaylee last.
So it came through the sliding glass door. He talks about communication from Kaylee. She wasn't scared. Well, then what was going on? Is it someone you wouldn't be scared if it's someone you know? Dee wants to take a poll. What poll do you want to take, Dee? I took a poll earlier if you think it's targeted or not, who you think the target is. What poll do you want to take, Dee? I got to listen to this again. I'm going to drive you guys crazy, but I got to hear this again, just the way he says it.
Said the entry point was the slider.
They said the entry point was the slider. And no, I don't know how they know. I'm not an investigator.
The manner in which Kaylee and Maddie were killed is different. And what does that tell you? And what are the police telling you that means?
There's a couple things that tell me with common sense, but I'm not a professional, so I want to specify that. But they've said the entry point was the slider or the window. It was in the middle floor. So to me, he doesn't have to go upstairs. His entry and exit are available without having to go upstairs or downstairs. Looks like he probably may have not gone downstairs. We don't know that for sure, but he obviously went upstairs. So I'm using logic that he chose to go up there when he didn't have to. And I can kind of tell by my daughter's texts, messages. She did call 911. She wasn't saying anything along the lines of like she had heard something or she was in fear. So I'm just putting the dots together.
Well, the text messages we know, well, she was trying to call ex-boyfriend. We're calling ex-boyfriend, between 2 and 3 in the morning. Ex-boyfriend was asleep or pretended to be asleep because he didn't want to, maybe didn't want to have an argument with an ex at 2:30 in the morning. I don't know. But he's saying she didn't call 911. She wasn't fearful in her text. He said by common sense, he didn't have to go upstairs. The point of entry was the slider on the second floor. He didn't have to go upstairs. So that leads us to believe you got your target. You could have just turned around and left. What are you thinking,
Right.
Jay?
I think the exact same thing. I just wonder how they know that that was the point of entry if there was no forced entry. You can't say that just because there was a handprint there or any kind of physical evidence there that would lead you to believe that that was the exit was also the entry.
Well, now they haven't released how they know that's the point of entry, but it's been said since early on, but they don't say how they know or anything like that. Could it be footprints? I don't know. That's all we got to go on, though, is what they say.
Just like everything else, it leads you to so many more questions, but I would really like to know how they know that that was the point of entry.
For real. Me too.
I mean, because if you know that, then you can almost for certain say that, well, I mean, not for certain, but it would lead you to believe that Ethan and Xana would be the targets.
Seattle Ryan said, I respectfully disagree with your interpretation of what he's saying. Do you want, here, grab the link. I want to hear what everybody says about this because I got nothing. I'm so confused by all of this. Like you said, all right, so there's the point of entrance, but you say there's no forced entry. So how do you know? We've already heard that the front door was left ajar. When I first heard that, I'm like, well, somebody used the front door. Then Kaylee's sister said it would be no big deal to be able to get in because the code to get in the house was well known. Here, let's listen to it again. And also remember, he's really kind of given his opinion. He's like, I'm not a professional. I'm using my common sense. He didn't have a reason to go up the steps. He doesn't say why he didn't have a reason to go up the steps, though. I don't know why they didn't ask him that. Well, what do you mean he didn't have a reason to go up the steps? Is your daughter not the target? You're saying that he killed his target? He went through the sliding door, he got his target, and he could have just turned around and walked back out? Is that what you're saying? But he chose to go upstairs? I don't know.
Exit are available without having to go upstairs or downstairs. Looks like he probably may have not gone downstairs. We don't know that for sure, but he obviously went upstairs. So I'm using logic that he chose to go up there when he didn't have to. And I can kind of tell by my daughter's texts, messages. She did call 911. She wasn't saying anything along the lines of like she had heard something or she was in fear. So I'm just putting the dots together. As far as the investigators, they're very tight-lipped and they're keeping everything close to their vest. And I understand that. And I'm probably not the right person to share all these things with. So I'm just trusting them that their case is super tight and they don't really need to reach out to the community. And, all the evidence is right there in the home.
So, Steve, I want to be respectful, as I can tell you're trying to walk this tightrope as well with law enforcement, but the desire to know and get some type of action as well. You've said both now to Rachel and then in the clip in your appearance with Lawrence Jones that your daughter and Maddie had different means or manner of attack, and that suggests one of them was targeted. Can you share with us, do you know, and you can't share either way, which one was targeted?
I can't. I asked for permission to do just that, and they said no. I probably disclosed information that they wish I wouldn't have said.
So he knows who the target is. He asked for permission to share it. They said no. Well, it's not going to be the dean. He wouldn't care about anyone like that. So I'm going to assume that that's law enforcement. I asked for permission to share it. They said no. And he said it twice in the previous interview. And then on Fox and Friends yesterday morning, he didn't have to go up the stairs. Well, if you go in the slider and your target is on floor 3, you have to go up the stairs. There's no escalator. He didn't have to go up the stairs. So he knows who the target is because he said law enforcement won't let him share who it is. Now I'm wondering when they were told who the target is, because the interview the night before, his wife said, we've asked, they won't tell us. They've said, we'll let you know, and they won't. Because I said to you, could it be that they don't know? He's saying right here, I've asked to say, and they won't let me tell him.
All that seems very logical to me, and logic is about all we have right now.
And he clearly says, I'm using my common sense.
2 and 2.
2 and 2. Hang on. Celine says you're interpreting it wrong. Well, what is your interpretation of him saying that this guy didn't have to physically go up the steps? Is it a metaphor as in you didn't have to go up there and kill my daughter, but you chose to go kill her for no reason? Or is it you didn't have to go up the steps because you already got your target? You already got what you came for. You could have turned around and left. How are you interpreting it? Because he's not being clear. And if his daughter's the target, then he does have to go up the steps because his daughter was on the 3rd floor.
The evidence is right there in the home.
So, Steve, I want to be respectful, as I can tell you're trying to walk this tightrope as well with law enforcement, but the desire to know and get some type of action as well. You've said both now to Rachel and then in the clip in your appearance with Lawrence Jones that your daughter and Maddie had different means or manner of attack, and that suggests one of them was targeted. Can you share with us, do you know, and you can't share either way, which one was targeted?
I can't. I asked for permission to do just that, and they said no. I probably disclosed information that they wish I wouldn't have said. but the story's going cold. There's less people coming to Moscow. I'm not.
Okay, the interview from before, he said that's his information. He paid that bill. He paid for that funeral. He knows that the means are different. So I don't know what happened overnight for him to say, I asked for permission to share that, but I can't. I don't know. I just caught that.
Yeah, he's definitely more forthcoming in this interview.
He's a lot calmer, that's for sure. Either his wife said something to him or somebody at the police called him and said, now let's talk about going on TV.
I would bet that would be the case.
Because he said, I asked, because they said, who's the target, Haley or Madison? You said he didn't have to go up the stairs, but he did. So when he got up there, if the means are different, somebody was more brutal than the other, but he says he can't share that. But in the previous interview, he said that's his information. He paid for that funeral. He paid that bill. So that's his information. Now he's saying he can't share it. I imagine he is I can't imagine the frustration. I just can't.
Yeah, I think he was definitely told to hush it up a little. And I think that's the only logical conclusion of interpreting how he's explaining it. I just still want to know how they know that was the entry.
I know. That's going to bug you for a while. That's going to bug you for a while. Yeah, Tamara, he said, I paid that bill. So like he has facts. He has information. So if you didn't have to go up the stairs, people are reading it as you didn't have to go up the stairs because your target wasn't there. You would have to go up the stairs if your target was Kaylee. You would have to go up the stairs if your target was Madison. Unless, like I said, the interpretation is it's just a metaphor saying you didn't have to go up there and kill those girls.
And I think there would have been, he was obviously very emotional in that first interview. And like I said, he was somewhat biting his tongue before he came out and said he didn't have to go upstairs. I think that would have been worded a little different if he was truly meaning he didn't have to kill my daughter.
I would think he would say just that.
I'm saying if you know that she wasn't the target.
Now say that again.
I would think as emotional as he was, he wouldn't have used the words he didn't have to go upstairs if he really meant he didn't have to kill my daughter.
Oh, I agree. And I think after saying, I paid that bill, I paid for that funeral, that's my information, I don't have to keep anything quiet, to be asked point blank who's the target, to say, I can't say. If the target is his daughter, he would be so fuming mad, which he's mad anyway. He's frustrated, he's broken, he's hurt. He'd say, my daughter. My daughter.
Right.
But I don't know. We're going to find out because he's not going to quit talking. He expressed frustration. There's not as many people coming to town now.
I'm gonna go sleep in my bed, knowing that I could get up and I could go to town and I could do something. And I'm not gonna go away. And I hate to be a pain, but as a father, I just can't even sleep thinking that I could be doing something. So that's why I'm not.
Understandable. Wow.
Let me ask the flip side too. You're being respectful toward police about the fact that they need to be tight-lipped. But if there was something you felt like you deserved to know or you should know as a father at this point, are there questions you have unresolved from the police that you feel like, hey, just throw me a bone here and let me know?
For sure. I mean, alibis, just share the alibi. If you're not sharing an alibi, to me, it tells me that you're not 100% confident that it's going to stick, or you have somebody who's going to come forward and say, hey, I don't know what he told you or that person's alibi was, but I have this information. I have something. So if you don't share the alibi, it makes it a little bit harder for us to just let those go. And I've said it before. I don't want to make victims out of just vice.
All right, so we're back to the alibi. if you won't share the alibi, whose alibi? I would love to know. And we can only speculate. And I know that upsets some people. We're not accusing anybody or anything like that. Whose alibi? And being in bed counting sheep is not an alibi. Everybody's sleeping. Everybody's sleeping. I mean, I can guarantee if I tell you I'm asleep at 3 a.m, well, I'd probably be just getting out of bed. Being asleep is not an alibi. So when he says, why can't they share the alibi? There is, excuse me, there is someone specific he's got in his crosshairs. He wants to know where they were between 3 and 4 in the morning on November 13th. But they won't share the alibi, he said.
Right. And to me, that sounds like he's speaking of someone in that circle of friends, not an outsider.
I'm going to listen to that again. Because that's a big deal that he's specifically asking for an alibi. And like I said, being tucked away in bed is not an alibi.
Are there questions you have unresolved from the police that you feel like, hey, just throw me a bone here and let me know?
For sure. I mean, alibis, just share the alibi. If you're not sharing an alibi, to me, it tells me that you're not 100% confident that it's going to stick, or you have somebody who's going to come forward and say, hey, I don't know what he told you or that person's alibi was, but I have this information. I have something. So if you don't share the alibi, it makes it a little bit harder for us to just let those go. And I've said it before, I don't want to make victims out of just bystanders and witnesses. So I just share those things, and that would help.
Steve, do you get the sense that you're being asked to not talk more and that law enforcement is being so tight-lipped to protect an investigation that is honing in on a conclusion, or because they're totally lost and there is no real sense of direction? And I think all of us, we want to trust law enforcement. We want them to do their job. But I don't know if you know, I have no idea. Is this thing honing in at this point, or is it scattered all over the place?
Wish I knew for sure. I did sit down with the investigator, the lead investigator, and I looked in his eyes, and I got a sense that this guy was going to do everything in his power to figure something out. But if the evidence isn't there, that's the part that I'm concerned. And then there's layers of separation. The communication is not the same as
That's the picture I'm talking about that's been circulating. That's the handprint, which could be anybody's, because that house is a petri dish full of DNA. You've got present tenants, last tenants, sleepovers, friends, people that stopped by with friends, friends of friends, maintenance people, people looking at rooms to move in. That looks pretty fresh to me, and I am no forensic scientist by any means.
That appears to be a pretty big handprint, just from observational point.
Yep.
You know, going back to how he said, talking about the person who has or doesn't have the alibi, he says you don't want to say something or he says he doesn't want to say something if somebody else comes forward and says something different or accuse a potential witness. Again, I think that's referring to someone in the circle.
Well, we have another mystery that I'm going to have to address. Jacqueline has said several times that someone is eating. She said something about potato chips. I'm not eating. You're not eating. Are you thinking one of the reporters or Steve is eating? Because nobody up here is eating, Jacqueline.
Maybe she could hear my mouse clicking. I don't know.
Yeah, I clicked my mouse and my keyboard sometimes, but I'm just not going to mute back and forth to move this around. Nobody's eating.
I'm not eating, no.
Nope. What I ate this morning, I ate a banana. You wouldn't have heard that anyway. So we got that out of the way. We're good for something this morning. We cleared that mystery.
She said it sounds like me.
Put the potato chips down, Jay Woody.
I don't eat potato chips, as a matter of fact. I stay away from anything with trans fats.
You're a healthy feller. Man,
I try to be.
I know. Well, if you were going to have a potato chip, what would you have if you decided to break your diet?
If I decided to break my diet, well, it wouldn't be potato chips. It would probably be a cinnamon roll or a donut, but
And those don't make those noises. All right, we cleared that up.
yeah.
Ryan said, and I'm sorry, I don't believe the police told them who the target is. I think he's just assuming. And I do too. And I'm being as respectful. I'm being respectful. I'm not throwing shade that when he gives these interviews, he clearly says, I'm not a professional. It's my common sense. I'm connecting the dots. So he's really just giving us his opinion as well. But when he says something like, I asked to tell who the target was and they told me no, that leads us to believe that not only is he not eating potato chips on camera, he also knows. He knows inside info.
Yeah, definitely. Something I was just thinking about. Usually you see some news outlet or mainstream media report something along the lines of police activity possibly connected to the case. We know that they haven't found the murder weapon. Have they even looked outside of the perimeter of the home for a murder weapon?
I have never heard anything more than what they have put out, that they went like back behind the house. They went through dumpsters, trash cans. They said they were looking at local stores to see if anybody had bought this K-bar knife anytime soon. I would think it would be something that someone has had for a while and is all cleaned up and back in its sheath in its cabinet.
Yeah, and I get the likelihood of them finding a murder weapon is very nil. That's not really what I'm getting at. I just think it's kind of odd that there has not been even a report of them searching anywhere.
They have been searching up until a couple days ago. They've been all over that house.
No, I mean outside of the house.
Oh, I don't know where they've been. And we haven't had a press conference in almost, when was Thanksgiving? Right here. Penny, for your thoughts, said last press conference was the day before Thanksgiving, November 23rd, almost 2 weeks. So we haven't had a press conference. They quit talking totally. Jacqueline said sorry, but now everybody wants potato chips. Jacqueline, for that, has to buy us all potato chips, except for Jay Woody. He wants a cinnamon roll. I'm sorry, that was so funny. I thought, she doesn't know you. Somebody's eating potato chips. I'm like, nah.
No.
All right, now I got to hear this.
And I got a sense that this guy was going to do everything in his power to figure something out. But if the evidence isn't there, that's the part that I'm concerned. And then there's layers of separation. The communication is not the same as the boots on ground. All the officers that are out on the streets, those guys that are working their tails off, but there's a different person who does the communication. And that guy's sitting with a lawyer, and that guy's sitting there telling him, you got to protect things that are beyond the case, like the town and the community and the
That again. If I was him, I'd be more pissed about that than anything. If the police don't know, the police don't know. If the police are investigating, I wouldn't be happy about it because, well, for obvious reasons, but I would respect the hell out of it. But he said that guy's sitting with a lawyer. He's talking about the school. He's talking about the school, I believe, here. Just my opinion. Listen to him. You've got that guy sitting with a lawyer. He's talking about protecting the school. The town. This is a college town. We have to have college students.
There. That's the part that I'm concerned. And then there's layers of separation. The communication is not the same as the boots on ground. All the officers that are out on the streets, those guys that are working their tails off, but there's a different person who does the communication. And that guy's sitting with the lawyer, and that guy's sitting there telling him, you got to protect things that are beyond the case, like the town and the community and the college itself. Those don't matter as much to me. I mean, I definitely don't want to hurt them, but I have an agenda, and I think it's pretty clear. It's these two girls, and that's what I'm working for. And I'm not going to let that story fall apart just because they don't want wanted posters, on their next rush of students that come into town.
There you
Wow.
go.
I have to say, Steve, I hadn't really considered those factors, but it's obvious that that would be a consideration for the communications director of the police department and also the PR for the school and the town. Are you communicating with the parents of the other victims? Are they feeling as frustrated as you are? And I hate to ask a two-part question, but I'm going to do it anyway. Do you feel confident in the police investigation and the people investigating right now?
I do not feel confident, and that's why I push the envelope and say a little bit more. I hate to be that guy, but there's a job to do for everybody. Has a job and a role to play, and this is my role as the parent. I have talked to obviously Maddie's mother and her father, and I've talked to Xana's father. And he said, hey, you can speak on behalf and you can help push this narrative. So I feel confident there. That's as far as the real communications that I have. So one family have missed out to being able to be in the same location and the same thing to really get on the same page. So I try not to mention that and stay within my lane of what is my role. And I'm not trying to just gear it all to my daughter. It's just, I can't speak for other people.
Yeah. Steve, before we let you go, just share a little bit with our audience about Kaylee.
Kaylee was amazing, hard worker. She hung out with two boys, her brother and her cousin, and she was right in between them. She wanted to be faster than them. She was that girl that was really she was kind of like this, a Punky Brewster type girl. And we missed out on a really smart person that was going to be a little conservative. She was conservative. She was always looking up stories on child, getting trafficked, and she was telling me that she thinks it's a lot bigger than people understand. So, and we can't replace her, guys. There's no replacing any one of these people.
Steve, we're all parents on this couch, and I just can't tell you how much we feel for you, and can't imagine what you're going through, you and your whole family. And I know that you came on the show today because you're hoping that people that might have information, you're hoping that more information come forward. And so we encourage anybody to call 208-883-7180. The phone number is on the screen right now. And I've heard you say it before, Steve, it could be anything. You have no idea how small a piece of information could be that could help.
And Steve, good on you for agitating.
Yes.
We need more men and fathers willing to do precisely what.
Okay, so he mentions he's talked to Xana's father. We know he speaks with Madison's family because, they all grew up together. He has spoken with Madison's father. There seems to be, just from what I'm gathering, no, I'm not making more out of anything than it needs to be, that they don't really communicate with Ethan's family. Ethan's family seems to be doing their own thing. They haven't really spoken out. They did early on, but it seems like since his service, they haven't really said anything. They could just be the ones that are just going to sit back and wait on law enforcement. I don't know. That's just what it looks like to me.
Yeah, I would agree. And those shots were definitely fired at the university, and rightfully so. I would say, screw your revenue. I'm going to figure out justice for my daughter and her friends.
Yep.
Yeah, and I saw somebody mention in chat that he had said something about Kaylee being involved with investigating or brought on the outer ends of, keeping an eye on child trafficking. And of course, when I heard this interview the first time, my conspiracy theory antenna went up as well. But I don't think that has anything to do with this case, at least not without any further kind of information or evidence. But I know that there's going to be the diehard conspiracy theorists that jump on that hardcore.
Oh, big time. They already are. And the fact that I'm just looking at what we're not hearing. The fact that Ethan's parents aren't saying anything anymore. Maybe they feel like they've said all they need to say. Maybe he is clearly the target. It seems like they've ruled out everybody that would be around Kaylee and Madison. So they said that the guy that's in the grub truck video, they said they don't believe he's involved. They don't believe the two roommates that survived. Well, they say survived. They weren't attacked, but that were there. That survived. It's not them. They don't believe the ex-boyfriend that they were calling. So anybody that's really around them, they don't believe there's a stalker. He doesn't believe there's a stalker. He just said they're pretty girls. They got a lot of attention. That's not a stalker. But we still have all this time between when the appearance was made at the party to when the murders happened. Maybe Ethan's parents were told, we think Ethan might have been who they were after. I don't know. And so they aren't saying anything. And he's not mentioning them for a reason.
Yeah, that would give me reason to want to hush up as well if I was their parents, his parents.
And within an hour, it could change.
Well, I'd love for it to change by more information coming out.
Yeah. I think something's going to break open, especially since they are done processing the house. I did see that there were some detectives that were back, and then they left again.
Yes, I saw that too. And I think that Brian Hinton did a Twitter Spaces last night where it was mentioned that the detectives there had set up investigation markers, like you would see initially on like the first day of arriving to the crime scene on the ground. You know what I'm talking about? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, those markers.
Yeah.
So it was said that that's what they had done on that visit.
Oh, so they're determining what's important.
I think they're putting something more in order is what I deduct. Order of something happening, some kind of process.
Very interesting. When Brian Hinton did his Twitter space, did he sound like he was inside or standing in a snowstorm?
I didn't listen to the whole thing. He didn't sound like he was in a snowstorm, no.
Okay. All right. That is important to know because I am curious about that too. I am. Well, this was a great chat as always. We had a lot of great opinions, a lot of great comments. You're not eating during the show. I'm not eating during the show. This is a lot to go through. I was going to go through some stuff with Xana's mom, but my mind is blown now and I got to go back through this because I've confused myself. So we'll do Xana's mom and what all she had to say separately, because now that I think about it, it would confuse the situation.
Yeah, I found some of her comments kind of, I wouldn't say out there. Because nothing's off the table, especially when you want answers, but intriguing to say the least.
Very intriguing. Well, my intriguing friend, I'm going to let you get back to work and I'll see you over in Discord.
All righty. You have a good day, Brooks.
You too, hun.
Bye.
Let's say thank you for Jay Woody coming up and talking this all out with us. Kind of the voice of reason, whereas I'm all over the place with this case because nothing makes sense. And when it makes sense and I'm like, oh, I see. I'm telling you, within 12, 13, 14 minutes, something comes out and I'm like, scratch that. Forget it. Couldn't make sense now. So they obviously have their work cut out for them. Mermaid said, I need Tylenol. I do too. I have kept Tylenol in business since I got into this. For sure. Well, you guys, speaking of, I am going to go take a Tylenol. Now, I have an appointment tomorrow, so I'm not 100% sure what time the show is going to be tomorrow. I'm hoping it's going to still be at 9 a.m. I have to get some things worked out. Either way, make sure your remind all is set and that you're subbed the whole 9 yards. So that way we don't miss it. We don't miss each other. So you guys try to survive your Monday. Mondays suck. At least we got to hang out together for a little bit. So try to survive your Monday, and I will see you guys back here tomorrow sometime. All right? You guys have a great day. Thanks for everything.